12 people slept 4 hours a night for 2 weeks in a strictly controlled laboratory environment. They could eat whenever they wanted, and their overall weight barely moved. Yet, when researchers scanned their bodies, they discovered something shocking. Their visceral fat, the dangerous fat wrapped around internal organs like the liver and heart, grew by 11% anyway. Their total body fat did not shift any differently than a control group sleeping 9 hours a night. Only where the fat was deposited changed. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic ran this randomized trial and published it in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. It quietly overturned something almost everyone believes about belly fat, that where your body stores fat is purely a calorie problem. It is not. At least not entirely. There is a specific enzyme sitting inside your visceral fat right now that can expand the deep abdominal pocket even when your total weight stays completely identical, and almost nobody explains how this tissue-level switch actually works. To understand why this happens, start with what most people already sort of know. When you are stressed, tired, or chronically sleep-deprived, your adrenal glands release a stress hormone called cortisol. Cortisol travels through your blood to almost every cell in your body. What is missing from that standard story is a critical detail. Cortisol does not travel through your bloodstream in its active form. Your body actually circulates an inactive precursor called cortisone. Think of it as the off switch sitting dormant until tissue needs it. Whether that dormant precursor gets switched on locally depends on an enzyme named 11-beta-HSD1. Here is the detail that changes everything. Your visceral fat is packed with far more of this enzyme than the fat under your skin. Subcutaneous fat, the pinchable fat just under your skin, receives the stress signal at normal volume. Visceral fat has built its own private amplifier. It takes that exact same quiet blood signal, turns the volume up several notches internally, and converts inactive cortisone into active cortisol inside the visceral fat cell itself. Even if a standard blood test shows your systemic cortisol is normal, the tissue environment inside your deep abdominal fat can be bathed in chronic stress signals. This is not a theory pieced together from weak correlation. In 2001, scientists proved this cause and effect link by doing something wild to mice in a study published in the journal Science. They genetically engineered mice to overexpress this exact enzyme, 11-beta-HSD1, only inside their fat tissue. Nowhere else in the body was touched. Same food intake. Same physical activity. Same total daily energy expenditure. The result? Those mice developed visceral obesity and the full cluster of metabolic damage that follows: insulin resistance, elevated blood sugar, and fatty liver changes. One single enzyme, turned up inside one specific tissue type, produced an entire metabolic shift. That is as close as biology gets to isolating a single dial and watching what happens when you turn it. You will hear endless content online about visceral fat. You will hear about 16-hour fasting windows, lowering glycemic loads, and building muscle to improve glucose disposal. Research from Stanford, specifically work led by Dr. Tracy McLaughlin, shows that while visceral fat makes up only 5 to 10% of your total body fat, it drives an overwhelmingly disproportionate share of your risk for type 2 diabetes and heart disease. That research is crucial to know. But almost none of those breakdown videos mention that your sleep, independent of your diet, is quietly adjusting that cellular dial every single night. When you cut sleep short, two distinct things happen. First, you lose stage 3 deep sleep, which is when growth hormone spikes to repair tissue and inhibit visceral fat accumulation. Second, you disrupt REM sleep architecture, which drives up sympathetic nerve activity, your fight-or-flight system, during the exact hours your internal organs are supposed to recover. You can nail your nutrition perfectly, hit your protein targets, and lift heavy 4 days a week, and still be quietly feeding this mechanism if your sleep window is chronically compromised. To see how this works in real life, consider someone like Renata, 44, a dental hygienist, 2 kids, on her feet all day. For years, her sleep looked average on paper, around 5.5 to 6 hours a night. Her scale weight barely moved, so she assumed everything was fine. But her body composition was subtly shifting toward her midsection. When her doctor flagged rising fasting insulin 2 years in a row, she took the standard advice: cut carbohydrates, track calories, and reduce portion sizes. She stuck to it for 3 months. Her scale weight dropped 2 pounds, but her waist measurement stayed identical, and her fasting insulin barely budged. Why? Because restricting calories did not address the cellular amplifier running in her deep abdominal tissue every night. In Phase 2, she did not alter her food further. Instead, she fixed her sleep architecture. She shifted from an inconsistent 5.5 hours to a protected, consistent 7.5-hour window. She kept her wake-up time identical on weekdays and weekends. And she got 10 minutes of direct outdoor daylight within 30 minutes of waking. By week 4, her afternoon brain fog subsided. By week 8, her waist circumference was down over an inch. She was preserving lean muscle while shedding visceral mass, which is why the scale barely moved. And by her next checkup, her fasting insulin dropped into a healthier range. Fixing her sleep quieted the tissue-level enzyme signal, allowing her body to alter where energy was stored. So what is the actual protocol to keep this enzyme dial turned down? We need to separate proven interventions from hype. Based on longitudinal data, including a 5-year study by the Wake Forest University School of Medicine, here are the 4 specific drivers that control visceral fat accumulation. Number 1. The golden sleep window. Target 7 to 8.5 hours of continuous sleep. Wake Forest's 5-year study showed that both short sleepers, who got less than 6 hours, and long sleepers, who got more than 9 hours, accumulated significantly more visceral fat over time. Consistency inside the 7 to 8 hour range is the sweet spot. Number 2. Circadian consistency. Going to bed at 11 p.m. on weekdays and 2 a.m. on weekends creates social jet lag. This shifting schedule spikes nighttime cortisol release and dials up 11-beta-HSD1. Aim for the same sleep and wake time within a 30-minute window every day. Number 3. Early photonic anchoring. Get natural daylight in your eyes within 45 minutes of waking. This sets your central circadian clock, ensuring cortisol spikes early in the morning when it is supposed to, rather than lingering late into the evening. Number 4. The 3-hour dinner buffer. Avoid heavy meals within 3 hours of sleeping. Digestion elevates core body temperature and forces insulin to remain high during initial deep sleep cycles, a state that directly impairs nighttime growth hormone release and amplifies visceral fat storage switches. Think of it this way: your visceral fat has an internal volume knob controlled largely by your circadian rhythm and sleep depth. You can build a great fitness routine, the fasting window, the strength training, the high-protein diet, but if that one cellular switch is turned up every night, you are fighting against your own biology. Sleep loss does not just add fatigue, it changes the cellular map of where your body stores fat. How many hours of actual, uninterrupted sleep did you average this past week? Drop your honest number in the comments below. I read every single one. If you appreciate deep dives into human biology that go beyond surface-level health advice, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next analysis.